Okay, everybody, welcome to yet another Nova Scribes. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps us out. Tonight, I am super excited to continue our series that we're calling Process Talks, where we invite a visual practitioner. Uh, how do I even start with you? Leslie is like, you're it, you know? I mean, you're
Just a
you're
visual
you're the
practitioner.
mold from which, yeah, I know, but like I'll say, like Luminary doesn't, come close. If we had a Mount Rushmore, your face
Ah,
would be on it, you know? Also, she's very
yeah.
humble, so she
Maybe
hates
after I
stuff.
die, I'll
So
be a
let
coin or something.
don't rush to that. She gave me her whole background, and it was very, Leslie connects people to ideas and corporations and things. Let me tell you the real story about Leslie. I'm going off script for this one, which is going to
Uh-oh.
horrify her, but it's fun.
Am I
So
allowed to
Leslie
correct
has
you?
been doing this. Sure, go for it. I
No, no, you go
think you've
ahead.
been
No,
doing
no,
this
I
work
mean,
for
as
just
you go.
about 40 years. Is
I'll
that
go
the
like
number?
this if you say so. Yeah, so I'm coming out of the closet about that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
40
41
years. Like, and as far as I
years.
know, that is the longest currently active graphic recorder that I know of. I mean, everybody else
Yeah,
that I know
possibly.
has hung up their markers. So it's amazing to have you.
Yeah,
Besides that, not just
thank
the
you.
40-year history, you are also the founder of the IFVP. And Leslie, it is super exciting to have you here. Thanks for coming
Thank
on to
you.
Nova
I'm so
Scribes.
glad to be here.
All
All
right,
right.
I'm just right off the block. I got some questions for you. So first of
Okay.
all, because like I've been doing this for about 15 years and I'm already tired. So how do you keep it going? Like how do you find
Okay.
the energy to keep going?
Okay. Do you want me to really start with actual energy, or do you want me to talk
Yeah,
about?
I want you to go wherever you want to go. Yeah,
Okay.
tell me go wherever
Okay.
you want
So,
to.
okay, I kind of did an analysis prior to today
Oh,
about myself and about my own, how have I kept it going? So I want to say that I found out there's like DNA markers for people who are visual practitioners. They're not real DNA markers, but for me, it is curiosity. Um, so curiosity is the key one, and then passion and caring. And so passion is really separate. So for me, my I'm not going to give an origin story. Oh, no, you wanted that. That's right. I can tell you an origin story.
well,
Um,
we'll
so
get
I
there.
was
Yeah, we'll do it.
okay, but I was lucky enough as a child to have been incredibly curious, which made other people unlucky because I was constantly wanting to know anything I could learn about. So that for me has carried me forward in wanting to keep working, keep learning, because every meeting that we're working in, we're learning the whole content. And we're learning, we often go home and we're going to like learn more about that content. For me, it wouldn't matter if it was like I don't know, a veterinary meeting or if it was meta Facebook meeting or if it wouldn't matter. I would be so charged up about learning something. And the fact that we get paid to listen and learn is mind-boggling. So that has kept me wanting to
Mm.
keep doing this work. So that's that. I am very, very passionate about helping people understand one another and people who are the caring part for me really helps me keep going because I either wanted to be heard as a kid or I still want to be heard. But I know that most people in the world want to be able to participate in a session, whether it's a meeting or a conference. But if there isn't a graphic recorder capturing what you've said, and if there isn't a design built in to that day to hear from you, you don't know if you were heard or seen. So I love the role that we play in listening and capturing it. This is from 20 years ago. This was something that was not for a client. I brought this out for other reasons, but um, that caring aspect for me is what holds me in front of the room. It's what keeps me going after maybe 12 hours on my feet. It's what keeps me friendly when people come up at breaks. I used to run when people came up at breaks. I was either trying to like, wash my face or drink a gallon of water or just chill out. But I learned that the essence for me of what kept me wanting to work is caring, curiosity, and passion. And passion is also about the business world. Like that developed. I started getting subscriptions to a lot of business magazines and to the New York Times and all sorts of times. And I got more and more interested. So those are the three DNA markers. And if whoever's watching this has those markers or have any of them, and if you're looking for something that's super satisfying and is a great career, those are my three that I think are kind of consistent in most of us. And I have a little story to tell on the side. I was on a job once, it was probably like in the first 2 years of my work, where a group of us had been hired separately by one consultant, Michael Doyle in the San Francisco Bay Area, who was my mentor. He brought us
Oh.
all, he brought us all to a job somewhere on the East Coast, and we tried to get into a cab together. And, there were like 5 or 6 of us in this cab, were crunched. And I looked around, I said, wait a minute, who are we? Like, how did we all get, what is this? Like, who are we? Who are we? Why are we all here? How did you get found? How did you get found? What's going on here? We ended up with a marine biologist. This was how they self-identified. A marine biologist. I was a rehabilitation counselor. One was a lawyer. One has her MBA and was also dealing cards at some point in her life. A community, what do you call it? Like helping to make the peace in community, who was also a mathematician. So none of us came from really an art background, a journalist background, anything like that. And we had all ended up in this car going to this job. Eventually, like within another 3 years or so, people that would see us were bringing in new people. And then we'd start developing the field a little bit more. And I just made sure that there was a cadence to a conference that people could come to every year. So
Mm.
yeah, that's what I did. So I just thought, I'm going to make
Mm.
that taxi like, big enough to hold 60 people. So we went from about 11 people at the first conference. Nobody knew who was going to be there, including me. We got up to about 64 and kept it that in our fourth conference. I think we had 64 participants, and it stayed that way for a really long time. So that's just a little tiny bit of
Mm.
the history.
No, that's fascinating. So when was the first IFVP conference?
It's kind of funny. We're all saying like in 1995. No, it was 1996. So we actually have to go back and
Mhm.
kind of figure that out. But 1995 or 1996, I think it was 96. Um, and it was mind-boggling. I liked bringing people together, and I got to know everybody. I put little presents under people's pillows. You know,
Mhm.
I brought my husband, who was kind of a new American. He had immigrated from China just a few years before, as the videographer. So we have video of everybody that was there. Um, and it was, all of us were kind of standing back a bit. Like, I just wanted to come. I don't know what we are going to talk about. So I had graphs on the wall. Tell us about yourself, what interests you, da, 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 what kind of jobs are you getting? And again, for at least 2/3 of the people in the room, they didn't have answers to that, because they were just very interested in what is this thing. A couple of them had just been met by somebody who was traveling, and there was the person sitting next to him on the plane. They brought that person. One colleague who's
Mhm.
still like amazing in this world practice brought like all the river rafting guides that she had worked with
Mhm.
in her life. And it kind of went like that. And then there was like an artistic field that came in through one or two people that arrived that were full on artists, sign painter, and the other one, I can't remember if it was like
Mhm.
oils or something like that. A clay artist. They just were all there in this little tiny place in Northern California. So that's how it started. I didn't
Amazing.
answer your
So
question
it
though about
sounds like
keeping
the
healthy. I'm sorry. I
yeah.
told you I was going to do this. I'm sorry. I didn't answer your question about keeping in shape and keeping healthy. If you have the drive to keep yourself engaged in your profession, you need to, and you probably will, have a parallel drive to stay really healthy and able. So I work
Mm.
out, mostly walking, and I'm starting to do some things in a pool nearby. But it has to do with make your passion for the work. For me, is what makes me need to be healthy. I need to be flexible. I'm still squatting half the time I'm doing this work. I
Yeah.
crawl a few times if I have to under these boards, so you just have to remember that to do this work well, you need to be in good health and good shape. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really physical, and a lot of people, I think, don't appreciate that. Where it's like, well, you're just up on the wall drawing. It's like, no, no, it's everything that comes with that.
Right.
That's the easy part of the job. Speaking of the job, how have you seen it change in 40 years? What's different today versus when you got started?
I'd say what's most different, and again, I can only speak for my own pieces that I was part of and through these particular years. But it's all about relationships and being
Mm.
available. One job leads to another job very, very often, depending on what kind of work you're engaged with. Um, and I wanted just to do a little shout out right here is that many people who have entered at least our association in the last 15 or 20 years have never known that graphic recording is done in meetings as well as conferences. So I just want to say that most of us
Right.
in the beginning was all meetings, which is really a different gig, and it's really great. It's just really different. It's a lot of content capture because people need to be verified and validated by what you capture. It's not synthesizing. You don't get to go like, oh, it kind of feels like a, so you add art like this, but it's not like you can synthesize
Mhm.
because that wasn't the design of that agenda. They weren't trying to get people to have their ideas synthesized. It was like to hear what everybody has to say in
Yeah.
the room. So that's really different. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so
and you, if let me build on that for a second.
yeah,
You referenced How to Make Meetings Work by Michael Doyle and David Strauss, and in that book, there you go. In that book, it talks about the ethic of the recorder. I think you can disagree with me on this one if you want, but I think that that is the book that really defined or gave us the modern definition of the facilitator and the recorder. I haven't been able to find an
I
earlier
agree.
instance of it, and
I
I've looked.
agree. I agree.
And one of the things that's in that book is to say, to your point, we don't synthesize, we don't paraphrase, we don't restate. We capture the verbatim of what the participants say because it's not our job to interpret, right?
Well,
Um,
the verbatim part though is very, that's only dependent if the meeting is a verbatim kind of meeting. There could be more like, it
right.
depends on the design, right? Like if you have a process where you just want people to popcorn out, you might just capture one or two words. Like I was taught to listen for the verb noun. That's what Michael Doyle taught us. Verb
Mhm.
noun, verb noun, verb noun. But yes, under certain circumstances, it would be verbatim if you were working through a document of some sort. Other circumstances, it wouldn't be. And also graphic facilitators, which I think of as really separate because I don't facilitate at all. I walked away from that option
Mhm.
early on, knowing I wasn't the right person. I couldn't hold that much. Um, I don't know how to put it. The number of people that you have to be aware of and the timing and this is why this really works for me. I'm
Mhm.
serving groups to get to their own insights by capturing at the speed of conversation, pretty much. But yes,
Yeah.
sometimes it's obviously a different agenda. We wouldn't be capturing, verbatim at all. Might be waiting. I might synthesize if I could have a minute to do it. But yes, generally, as a
Mhm.
graphic recorder in content heavy meetings, then yeah,
Yeah, I want to stay on this question for a little bit. How else
sure.
do you think, or have you seen the field change in 40 years?
So I think with the advent of the International Forum of Visual Practitioners, we have at least a way to exchange and co-record or just one facilitate, one graphically record, like teaming up, sharing. I think is much more. I have two opportunities coming up next couple of months from another graphic recorder who really needed someone to take her place in one of the jobs. So we share more because we can find each
Mhm.
other better generally. Um, that's a big deal. It's a real big deal. And we used to even visit each other. Like everywhere I went, I would call up and find out where somebody was, and I would we'd like meet up for coffee or tea. I'm still doing that with newbies in the field. I get together with them if they're coming to the Bay Area. So I would say sharing, collaboration, not much on the teaming up that I've seen, unless a few people have come together as what everybody's calling an agency. Then that is also new. They're
Mhm.
I mean, I guess you could say that a couple in San Francisco have been agencies all along, but that was really rare. So I
Mhm.
didn't even know the term for it a few years ago. Yeah. So where they have their
Yeah,
own
I
graphic
appreciate that.
recording team and they send them out and you know what I mean? It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've started to see also the rise of some almost internal graphic recording teams,
Yes.
typically
Yes.
paired with an account team or a sales team or something.
Yes.
Um,
In-house.
so,
Yeah.
in what ways would you say that you've seen the field grow? How has that happened?
Well, we used to be able to count the number of people at our events. And
Right.
now, of course, we have branches there. I mean, I shouldn't say branches, because I'm not a part of IFEP other than a member now. Um, I don't know the behind the scenes, but I know that we're all over the world. Members of our organization are all over the world. I'm going to miss one if I try to label it, but Europe, Asia, South
Hmm.
America, Canada, North America. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if, yes, Africa as well. So, so that's very exciting. And each of those places might have a number of visual practitioners that also branch out to being, some of them are consultants to clients, some are facilitators, some are graphic recorders, some are all three. So we are just all
Hmm.
over the place. It's fabulous. And again, the we for me is not
Yeah.
just members of our organization, but just people who are visual practitioners. Yeah.
Hmm. Thanks, Leslie. Stefan, I saw that you had your hand up
Oh,
earlier.
great.
Did you have something
Yay.
you wanted to weigh in on? Question?
Yeah, I put my camera on first. Did you take it off, or is that just I'm using my iPhone and it just went off?
It was
Just curious because
frozen
I
when you
see you
turned
at
it
the
on.
helm there. Huh?
Oh,
I think it was frozen. Did you have a question for Leslie?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, sure.
hi,
You said
Stefan.
that. Hello, hello. Yeah, you said it stayed at 64. That was the number that it hit. Was
Hmm.
it the same people that it that kicked in and kept the interest, or it just wound up to be a number that topped, and it was an influx of new people? I'm just curious because
Yeah,
those things are.
it's probably not either of those. I'm just weird about
Ah,
numbers. Well, only in the sense that I'm weird about numbers, but I did go back through some of our previous, years back lists of who came. We went from like 11, and then a lot of people fell out of that because they were just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. My friend brought me. And then when we got to the 30, like the 31, 32, that was more refined, like more people that came knew what they were going to. But when we hit like 64, 65, it just seemed like, I don't know enough about other organizations, but it seemed like it started to break into necessary differences, which was kind of great. We just didn't know what to expect because we were just trying to grow it, grow it, grow it. So we stayed in the 60s for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then more people started getting involved to actually put on the conferences. It wasn't just like me and two colleagues or, something like that. So that's when we got to have a further reach and many more people attending. So this is just like the history of the early days of a particular practice, but I'm not sure if it follows any kind of normal, you know.
another question.
Yeah,
You have conferences that encompass the international,
yes.
draws everyone together, and that must you do have that, and that must really the culmination must be phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. The problem is that it's cost and travel time because our conferences were largely in person.
Uh,
However, now there's many different ways to attend. So, but absolutely, I mean, seeing something from someone else's perspective within your own city, within your own state, but then to see it from out in the
Cultural.
world, yeah, culturally, it was just amazing. So you might already know that this year's conference is being held in South Africa.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's just whoever kind of decides to help with the conference gets to also help decide where the venue is going to be. Am I right, Sarah? Okay. Yeah. Please
I had
correct
a
me on any of
colleague.
this.
I had a colleague of mine that this is a few years back, and that's when they were realizing the magazines were fading out because of the internet. And
Oh.
they
Yeah.
told him, "You'll have a job if you make this work." The transition. He's still working. He brought his brother over, and he's going
Fantastic.
strong. But I could see where this might have really helped facilitate that to bring,
Yeah.
to take it from the page to
Absolutely.
these mediums.
Right. And there also needs to be a team of people that want to create or, what do you call it, a sponsor the conference or have it in their location. And then we really dive in to support the IFEP and others dive in to support that process. And those people locally just develop it however they'd like, pretty much. And then there's a lot of spin-offs that we don't even know about all across Asia and Europe. There's so many spin-offs that we can't even keep up with that. So it's just really exciting. We just know that what we have in common is generally going back to the basics that Brian and I have been talking about before we got on here, the basics of serving a meeting process so that there's a democratized conversation and some kind of a capture of it. So people can stare at each other's comments and get insights or make choices or decisions. And again, this chart might be one of 20 that you do in a job, one of 6, one of 10. So you're basically, the whole room is filled with everybody's ideas, and they're allowed to come up and say, that's not what I said. I'd like to change that. Or, can you add a little something over here because you didn't have it quite right. That's what we want. So yeah, so that's what these opportunities can bring when you attend the conferences, is seeing that collaboration and learning some skills and such. Yeah.
And Leslie, I love that you've got that metaphor of the tree behind you.
Yeah.
I've thought of this as, the practice. It started somewhere, maybe it was Doyle and Strauss, maybe it was, it kind of depends. I have a question for you though. How did you learn how to graphic record, right? Because so many people point back to you as their source of inspiration. They say, well, I learned how to do this from Leslie
Well,
Salmon Zhu. So
that's
who did you
interesting because
learn this from?
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. So I'll have to bring this
I could
forward
give you a
again.
list. Yeah, I've got
I didn't
it.
know that at all. I've never even heard that. So Michael Doyle. So I'll
Hmm.
try to talk fast because I know we don't have much time. Before doing this work, I was a rehabilitation counselor. And in that capacity, I was doing a statewide rehabilitation program with high school kids. And one day we got all shut down. Government changed and they just said, you guys are done. So we had like a couple thousand high school students across the state that were suddenly going to lose this really exciting program we had. On that last day on that job, Interaction Associates from California had
Hmm.
sent someone to talk to us about having more effective meetings with our staff. And we were never going to have a meeting again. That was the end of our job as rehab counselors. But I tuned into the person leading it, and I just followed him out the door, right? And I recommend anybody do this. I followed him out the door and said, "What are you talking about?" And he explained to me the basics of graphic recording and that this was a new thing. And that's how I met Michael Doyle, like I said. So that brings us to, how did I learn how to do it? Michael Doyle was a mentor to many people, Doyle, and he was full of systems and ideas and architectural things. He had dyslexia, and he was also an architect. He was a social architect, an innovation person, all sorts of amazing things. So the very first job I remember most working with him, he would take us places just all over the world to like barge into the room, set up what were flip chart pads at the time. Nobody had ever considered something this big. And just listen for days and days and days and flip the paper or tear it off and put it on the wall. What happened, which was really fundamental, how I learned, was Michael Doyle would come up behind each of us. He had 6 of us lined up usually on jobs, put his big hands on our shoulders and whisper to us while someone behind us was talking. He'd say, wait, wait, wait for it. That's it. And you'd write it down and
Yeah.
he'd go 2 feet to your right or left and go to the next person. So he taught us this way of merging with
Mm.
individuals and the tone in their voices. And we couldn't even see them. They were behind us. And to make a dedication to capturing that person's content. And that's what it really took, was teaching us that. The rest was how to hold your markers, or all the other things we all know about. But that was so stirring for most of us. Like, wow, that guy at the back of the room that nobody was paying attention to
Hmm.
just got to say the one thing he's been trying to say maybe for years, and we got it. And you can't
Yeah.
deny it. It's on the paper. And so everyone else is compelled to stare at that, pay attention to that person, take their ideas, and work together. So that's how I learned. And I guess that's how I have taught people.
Mhm.
It's from
So I
having,
have like 200 questions for you, but I'll try to keep it to just a couple. So how did the transition from flip charts, which every facilitator uses, to big paper, how did that happen?
my story is a woman named Joan McClintock, I believe is her name. Might have been another Joan, but they said, hey, let's try big paper. And we were all like, what are you talking about? And where are you going to put it? It doesn't hang on a flip chart. What? And it was just, she bought a big roll of big paper from an art store. And we brought it to, I think it was, I was doing a history map with Michael Doyle, live history map with a client in San Francisco. We rolled out the paper, we stuck it on the wall as fast as we could. And he said, I don't know, just use it. So the big paper changed everything, because you could make maybe connections, maybe arrows, maybe not, maybe you box things off. It's like, all this capacity to be able to do that. And if your metaphor is wrong, you can also just cross it out. It's like it's big
Hmm.
paper, it's not precious, it's never meant to be precious when you're doing graphic recording. And so you just go and go and go. And then my big contribution to the field was whiteout labels. So when I discovered we could cover things with whiteout labels, then we all had the freedom to make more mistakes because it's not a perfect job. Yeah.
I think
Did I
so,
answer
and I
it?
know that you might think that Leslie's being facetious here, but that is something that I use every day, and I know that there's a lot that I have to
Yeah,
thank you for, but
I did that.
if you want to
No,
be
that's
known as
the
the
only
person who
thing.
brought labels, if you'd like that to be your thing, I think that's completely reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we had like sticky tape, the white tape, but and you
Sure.
probably all know this, you put a marker on that, you run your hand across it, you are covered in marker and the words are gone. So I was like,
Smears.
oh,
Yeah.
what could work? And I was having babies at the time. And so I was like, had all these like little bits of things around my house. I thought, a label, stuck it on.
Yeah.
So now I have labels this big, of course, because I make mistakes this big. So you just
That's so great. That's so great.
and you
So
introduce it at
was
the
Michael
beginning of a
Doyle, would you
meeting.
call him a graphic recorder as well? Would he get in there and would he do some
He
drawing?
would get in there, but no, he wasn't trying to do that. He was like
Okay.
managing that whole, he had his arms around the event before it even happened, right? He had already consulted
Mm,
with each client. He had helped bring people together. And then Michael's team walks in and he's like, okay, we're gonna get this. I've taught you how to do it. We're gonna get it. And if you don't do it, what was lovely was he would just say, it's okay. It's okay. I got it. And I'm like,
mhm.
but Michael, he's like, no, I got it up here. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'll give it to you to Cap. He was just brilliant, amazing,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no,
I've
he was
I've been
not a
lucky enough
graphic
to work with
recorder.
facilitators like that. They're
Yes.
great. Um,
Yes.
I'd love to talk to you about your chart if that's okay. And
Sure. I'll do it. I'll do it. Like,
I think go
what's the
for it.
best use of time? No, what's the best use of time on your end?
Well, I've got a couple of specific questions for you, if that's all right.
Okay. Sure.
I've noticed that this chart and some of the other ones that you draw are
Mhm.
in a style that I might call familiar, right? It seems like it's like
Oh,
the
good.
classic graphic recording style. Let me be very specific about what I mean. So
Okay.
it's landscape as a metaphor, right?
Hmm.
There's typically a horizon line that's there.
That's
You're
right.
using natural elements. You're also alternating colors of text. So it's organized by like blue here. You have your banners, there's just clear lines of
Yeah.
delineation. And then the other
Mhm.
thing is, I don't know if this is pan pastels or chalk, but I'm assuming it's
It is
chalk. Is that right?
both. It's both pan pastels and chalk.
Both.
Yeah. And then I rubbed it in and I
Yeah,
also,
which is it's a,
oh, my other big contribution was baby wipes plus chalk equals paint. So, so
wow.
obviously
I'll have to try that. You
sanitizing
mean like
wipes,
wet baby wipes?
that's what I was into is baby wipes, but sanitize, any kind of like a wet wipe thing you buy, put chalk on it, but you got to know it's going to turn into like watercolor paint. If you don't know it, you're not going to like it
Right,
because you put on a bunch of beautiful chalk and then you take out the little wipe and you go like that, and it's going to be streaks of paint. So, but that's what's going on in a lot
right.
of it is chalk that then I baby wiped it. Yeah.
So
but you're right.
that visual
Yeah.
vernacular, that design style, it's something that I've seen a lot. Like for example, I think the Grove really made it famous, but you see it
Hmm.
with like Christina Merkley's work, Dana
Hmm.
Wasson's work. A lot of the
Hmm.
people that came out
Right.
of San Francisco
You're right.
tend to have this style. So is that something that you all just like got together and said, all right, we're going to come up with like the playbook for this, or did that happen organically?
Not at all. Good question. The beginnings of, I think most organizations are not necessarily everybody agreeing, like, let's do this, let's do that. This was really a time when, I mean, to be honest, we're just like still fighting for women to be able to take initiative and have their own business. I mean, it's like, it was amazing. So it was more that I think we were influenced largely by, probably the Grove later, with landscaping, but
Hmm.
I think it still came out of, for me at least, it came out of the people who first were introducing graphic recording into meetings in this form. So it would have been like Michael Doyle, and I could list a bunch of other folks, but where the landscape just made
Hmm.
sense. And Nancy Margulies, I think, was one of the experts in metaphor. So I didn't, yeah, there it is, yeah. So that book helped really like send this off, like exactly metaphors. And then we started kind of looking at metaphors,
Hmm.
like they can be positive and negative, so you just have to be careful. And people like me who were messing around with them when I shouldn't have been, I was mixing my metaphors. So that was really ugly. People would say, I don't get it. You have something that looks like a football field over here, but this is like a basket of oranges. It's just, I didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So it's still a weakness. But yes, I do a lot of things that are branching. Yes, there you go. Yep. And I was just really having fun with this. So again, everything is browned because it's from the year 2000 or something. Um, but I wasn't doing so much color coding, Brian, because we were careful not to do that. I don't know why. That was just the thing of the time, was
Mm.
don't use like purple over here and blue over there and green on there because it has a connotation. On the other hand, in all my practice for the first like 30 years, we were taught you could change color at each comment. So we would have like 9 markers. I still have like 9 markers, usually my left hand. And that was just to delineate things. So that's a really personal level of whether or not people choose to use color live to demark something. Um, so like I did that in the tree, I did green, I did blue over there, but that wouldn't necessarily be what I would always be doing now. So I like it. It's cleaner. You can
Thank you.
find it. It's just like a little grouping of these guys and those guys, and it's, yeah. And I have a lot to learn, actually.
And I
So
think, Sarah, did you have a question?
Well, it's kind of sort of back to the industry, not so much about your particular process, kind of like industry process in general. So I've been with IFVP longer post-COVID than I have pre-COVID.
mm,
And I know that that has changed the world in general, but certainly ours. And now we've got the AI,
yeah,
the new change that's AI.
yep.
And I wonder about the future of visual practice and IFVP in particular. And I'm curious to know, in all of your years being involved and working in this industry, what are the or are there threads that have survived these various I'll just call them upheavals in our world and because
Yeah,
we're going on 30 years now, right?
yeah, that's
So
right. I think it's our 32nd maybe or something like
mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
yes,
So
exactly.
I'd love to know what has I know what
Yeah,
has changed, what hasn't
really
changed.
great question. I think what hasn't changed, I hope, is the intention of a visual practitioner. And again, that's separate from someone guiding the process. I'm just saying this for other people watching. It's separate from someone who's, in addition, guiding the process, like facilitating or consulting at the same time. But for our profession as a freelance standalone graphic recorder, so to speak, um, I think what's persistent is, that's why I started off with my 3 DNA markers. What's persistent is what we carry with us into that meeting and what we contract to do with a client before we even say, yes, I have that date free. So I will talk to the client and tell them about like how I feel and how I listen and what I do. I think that's the only way for us to keep through all these big, dips and things. And I was going to mention today that I started noticing around the 15th year that anytime there was a catastrophe socially, publicly, politically, our jobs just disappeared totally. Nobody was in the mood for us. It was interesting. It's not that they didn't need us. They weren't in the mood to have a meeting captured this way. That was my takeaway. So the financial crisis, maybe even current politics, wars, it would just tank. And of course, COVID, most of us lost our practices entirely. If you're not allowed to have a meeting or a conference, but it did put a lot of people into online work, which was amazing and awesome. Thank God. I prefer this work. So that's where I'm always trying to find more of that. But with AI, I have a different opinion on that. I worked in all these companies that were developing AI long time ago, so I lived near Silicon Valley, and I would be, as a graphic recorder, you're in the inside of the highest echelon often, right? Of people making decisions. And so I already felt like this dangerous feeling. And I'm not going to let that lie in this video. Like, oh no, she's one of those. It's more that the way I feel about AI is the positives. Duh. Of course. List this long. Everything we can think of, right? Peace, not war, health, not disease. Let's go on and on and on and on. The negatives, I think, are extreme. So I personally don't want to have anything to do with it unless I have to in order to be a part of my work, my clients. So that's something that I hold on to, and I'm obviously not everybody agrees with me, but it's the good stuff. Amazing, sure. But today I looked at myself on my own website. I got a really cool looking dude with sunglasses on. He's even got my website name under him, Leslie Salmon Zhu. I mean, and a woman that looked kind of like me in my high school photo, young woman, maybe 20-year-old. So we don't have control over this, and I think that's outrageous. So that's just one of the things we are dealing with right now. Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
that,
you.
Leslie.
Thank you. And you're all
Leslie,
going like,
no, we're good.
She's a Luddite. She's
After this, I'll tell you something, but I'm not gonna save it
yeah,
for
you
the
don't want to come
recording.
out
Well,
about it, right?
yeah, but when you and I were doing our call in preparation for that, we talked about a couple of things. We talked about we're going to sound a little old, but we were talking about the kids
I'm
today.
not. I don't know about
We were
you.
well, okay. You were saying, some of these new graphic recorders coming in, and one of the things that we had observed was the pace that people were maintaining. So the idea of, for example, wanting one job a month, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to say more?
Yeah. It's just what are your feelings
Okay.
on that?
Yeah. So, okay, this is really important to our field, I think. I've always been trying to help people develop like their work or whatever, just develop, get more people into this, etc. But at the last two conferences, I did one of those little, what's it called? Open space, where
Hmm.
you can name it whatever you want, people come. And last time, I think I got about 10 people coming from all over the world. And we just met on a sofa for a few minutes. And the first thing I asked, because here I am always trying to develop us, right? I asked, just out of curiosity, how many jobs per month do you do and would you like to do? And the
Hmm.
answers were so shocking, but it verified a lot for me. That most of the answers were one. I'm like, I used to do 80 a year, and I loved it. It
Hmm.
was just amazing. One, two, someone said, they could handle maybe four. It's hard to recover from. Every time they get, they end a job, they're like wiped out for a few days. And I understand that, but I also feel like at least either I needed to keep working or I just love it so much that I
Hmm.
kept going and going. But that's something that we should do another one of those business, what's it called? Business barometers, Sarah? Not do another one. I just mean next time that comes around, this is something I was supposed to have sent you. I'm sorry. Was like some of the questions to ask, in my opinion, to ask people in our field to get a reading on, how's it going for people and what do they want
Yeah.
ultimately?
And I think, Leslie, those people that was it that they wanted one job or they had one job a month
I
and
was
they were
asking
happy with
both
that?
questions. Yeah, I was
Okay.
asking both questions. So it was kind of like one, two maybe, and I'm thinking seven,
Yeah,
and
right.
they're going like
Well,
one. And
presumably they weren't living on one job a month though, right? Like they
I
had
think
other
they
things.
were. I think they were. I mean, the pay is really high. I know you. Oh, you wanted to talk about our fees, didn't you, Brian?
We could if you want
I said, I don't
to.
know if we're allowed to, but let's just
Yeah,
give
they always shout at us whenever anybody brings it up at an IFVP conference, and I've got some feelings about that. Well,
yeah,
okay, Sarah, we
yeah.
can have that conversation
Well,
later
I
about
was
why
just
we
gonna
actually
say
can.
how about if we do something like this? Like it's between $700 a day and 3,500.
We
So
could do that if you want.
we
I'll
could,
just
I'm
come
gonna
out
do
and
that.
say it. So
That's
if
that.
if we all right, so do you want to go first?
And
It's
that
between.
includes worldwide. No, that's all I'm gonna say about the fee, but I was just gonna
Oh,
say
I
that
missed it. I thought that was hypothetical. What was it?
no, I'm saying between 700. No, I'm talking about, I'm going to keep it hypothetical, between $700 a day and 3,500 is what
Okay.
maybe 4,000. It depends on so many things around the edges that you offer, or
Right.
the country you live in, or tax situation, things like that. Okay, go
So
ahead.
that's the whole of the industry then. That's
I
everybody
think so.
worldwide. Okay.
I mean, that the only that I know of. I mean, that's as far as I know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then of course, the minute you step out of the US and the minute you step out of California, even totally different circumstances, to be honest, different
Hmm.
ways of looking at the work. Um, I mean, I don't know. There's so many details, like
Yeah.
some people don't even understand why it's valuable, and other people know that whatever we created in this meeting, for example, maybe hits the stock market in 2 days.
Hmm.
Like this is what this was, a private high end, not this, but a private high end meeting that we captured, and we see the effects like 3 days later. So it's
Hmm.
important. It's just valued differently in different places and the
Yeah.
economies of each of those places.
That's lovely. So, Leslie, again, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I think about this in terms of like almost like generations, right? And I think of like, people like yourself and David Sibbett as being in that like first generation, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm like, John Ward was the first graphic
Yes.
recorder that I ever saw, right?
Mhm.
And when he saw me or when I saw him, it just like lit me up. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's it, right?
Great.
So it's
Yes.
almost like, you sort of, I don't know if a lot of people do this, but you sort of like trace your lineage back almost to say like, who was my inspiration and who was their inspiration, who was their inspiration. Do you have any, just, because you have such a broad lens on this whole industry and you've seen so many changes come, you've seen so many people come and go.
Mhm.
Um, what's your best advice for people who are in the field?
Caring, curiosity, and passion
We're
is
back to
what
the
brings
three
you
C's.
your
All right.
works.
Uh-huh.
And this is going to sound so corny, but something that's about this big and it's made out of paper, you got to use frickin' business cards. It's not only are they back, maybe they aren't your own community, but they're back. Um, they're a passive representation of you. So you're working, and I make this like spray of business cards underneath my
Hmm.
easels, and I do it shamelessly. And the whole time I'm working, I counted them the other day. 23 of them were taken from a job I did
Mm.
that was in a conference, 23 out of 31. So I'm telling people that it's very hard to market yourself in this work because you have to know where to go and who's having a meeting. On
Hmm.
the other hand, one thing I'd like to introduce today is something I tried to experiment with myself years ago, and I got one going. So I'm just calling it place-based marketing. So if
Okay.
you love a place, it
Oh
could be a
yeah.
hotel room, it could be your city, it could be a library. If you love a place, start talking to them about having you in their next meeting that's booked.
Yeah.
So hotels, this is just I think I gave this out a few weeks ago. There was a hotel in Oakland area, happened to be on
Hmm.
an estuary, so you could happen to see boats going by if you looked out to the right, but not a fancy hotel at all.
Hmm.
And I was trying to start a group of us. It didn't fly. Nobody wanted to do it, but I was trying to start a group of us to rotate in and out of that hotel because we didn't care what the subject matter was. It wouldn't have
Right.
mattered if someone booked the
You just
room.
wanted to be there.
Yeah, it could be toothbrushes or it could be the FBI. We didn't care. We're like, we're going to be there. So the hotel loved the idea. And then the person that I brokered it with went off on maternity leave, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't get anyone in our field to really start talking about it. So I brought that up at the last Montclair conference, and they all wrote it down. They're like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So place-based marketing is the way to go, my opinion. And the places might not want anything from you, even though I offered, you know, as they're giving the tour of their hotel, for example, they would be saying like, you're having your meeting in this room. Would you like some graphic recording services? They're going to go like catering, tables, chairs. Oh, how about graphic recording services? And they were thrilled. So I pushed that out there for everybody to try it. And the hotel wanted nothing. They just said, how we're so excited that we can offer that now as a, you know.
Yeah, I've tried that. I haven't had
You have?
much luck at it. Yeah, because it's like, you know, oftentimes the meeting organizer doesn't work for the venue. Having said that, though, I do like place-based pricing, which is to say, you know, somebody
Hmm.
calls you up, they're like, yeah, how much is it to get you to come out? Well, it's $4,000. Yeah, we're in the Caymans. It's $1,000, you know. So it's
It's
like
place-based preferences. Say that 3 times. No, you're right.
place-based pricing. Yeah.
We used to all joke about that. Like, you know, we're not that far from Hawaii. Maybe
Right.
we would come down on our fees. By the way,
Yeah, I just
I
remembered
encourage
this.
everybody to change your
You all
fees
did an IFEP
constantly.
in Hawaii though
Yeah.
at one point, didn't you?
No, I
There was
didn't.
a
I didn't get to go there, but we
there
were
was an
right.
IFEP in Hawaii,
Yes, it
so
was. I didn't get
all
to go
right.
there.
I
Yeah.
put that in
But
your book, Sarah, for next year.
but be willing to change your fees. It's not going to demean you. It's
Yeah.
not going to make a habit because every client is fresh, right? So I just did a job that I took off $500. My fee was 2,500. I took it off 500 and I said, I would really like to work with you guys. And it wasn't
Hmm.
even in Hawaii. And they were like, you're in. So you have to
That's
learn
awesome.
to don't be afraid of it. You're not undercutting someone on purpose. If they have checked around for other graphic recorders fees, they shouldn't share that with
Hmm.
you anyway. If
Hmm.
you say, if you hear what the fee is and you come in under, that's considered undercutting. Aside from
Hmm.
that, charge whatever you want. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to time.
Yes. Okay.
Leslie, be thinking about some closing thoughts, but before we go
Okay.
there, so for anybody else who's on, any questions, queries, posers, highlights, insights for Leslie before we go off the air and into our after party? Oh yeah, Leslie, we do an after party. Did I tell you
Oh,
about
I
this?
love that. Okay.
So anything else for Leslie? Julie.
I just wanted to thank her because I had put on IFVP that I got somebody inquiring about a job and all of a sudden I was like, I don't know what to do next. And she graciously was on a Zoom with me for a very long time, answering all my questions very honestly and very openly. And um, in the meantime, that person found someone else to do the job.
Oh,
So whatever. But
Happens.
welcome to this world, right?
Happens.
yeah.
But
Um,
that's great.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I just so appreciated the advice she
Oh,
gave
good.
me, and
Good. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
it was very fun.
I'm if I can have one more second, Brian. If not, it's fine. Just tell me because I'm new at this.
Oh, please.
Um,
We'd love to hear from you.
one of the things, another chart I did, which I just will never show because it's laminated, it's wrinkly and all that stuff. But I talked to, it was actually at before the first conference, I did this whole chart about how we could support one another through different times in life. So think of your own practice as on ramps and off ramps, and you might have to go off for a while. You can also call in another graphic recorder and make an arrangement to keep
Mm,
that client happy. There's on ramps, like people handing each other work. If you want to give a fee to that person, you can offer it. They may say, no, thank you. I'm just glad you're going. You know, I'm glad this client gets to have you. But be more friendly with these kinds of things. It's very important for developing the field even further. And a lot of us have been practicing these kinds of things for a long time. It's worth it. Just like, you know, share your heart about this practice with other people. And please, everybody, try to train 2 people. If each of us tried to train 2 people, we're gonna oh, I never thought of it this way. You'll be replacing people like me. Oh my God. Okay, forget that. I never said that. But just let's just try to grow the field even more because more people need us. And it's an awesome career. It's the best. I can't think of anything better than what we're doing. It's pure joy and sweat. lots of sweat.
Leslie, I'm so,
Thank you.
it just swells my heart because there are those times where it's like 2 a.m. I'm laying in my bed, I'm looking at the ceiling, I'm like, did I pick the right career? But
Oh, I'm
you've done
sorry to
this for
hear
40.
that.
No, but you've done this for 40 years and you're telling me
Right
that this was the
on.
right choice.
Right on.
So,
I think you have the genetic markers. I think you're curious and you're passionate.
oh, that's what it's all about. That's your
That's
book.
it.
You need to write that book. All right,
Thank
let's
you so
give
much. I
Leslie
love
Salmon
meeting you
Zhu a big
all.
Nova Scribes. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Leslie, it was
Thank you.
great to have you.
Where's the
Let's do this in
party?
another 40 years. We're getting there. We're getting
Thank you.
there.
Okay.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you so much.